What's happening?
Not much, man. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Oh, you got a radio voice right there.
You know deep inside it's killing me. Close your eyes and hope to see, but you might be the death of me, the very last breath of me. And still I hold on to those ways.
I've listened to the Victory podcast. My wife bought me the Entourage DVDs, and you guys had the commentary on those. And I would listen to them like back then. That was a long time ago. I think HMV days.
It was a long fucking
right?
time.
Fuck, man. But that was gold. I remember listening to them back then saying, shit, man, why can't they do more of this? It was so interesting, right? Like,
I wish they had podcasts 10 years ago. I mean,
that would have been amazing.
It's pretty wild. So
yeah.
And make sure you listen to the new one, Hollywoodwayz. Spread the word in Toronto. I'm gonna have to grow one by one. So
that's fine.
All right. Well, let's do it. And
let's go.
So Leafs talk.
Awesome. So Brooklyn, New York, born and raised.
No. Born.
I'm sorry.
Born. I was raised on Long Island, Merrick. My parents are from Brooklyn. My brothers had a couple of years there, but I was just born there and moved to Long Island, so I did not get to experience Brooklyn too much.
Fair enough. What was childhood like? Were your parents connected to Hollywood? How, anything like that?
Not even a little bit. I had no connections to Hollywood when I got here, and no. My upbringing, we watched a lot of movies and TV in the house and loved comedy and dramas. But no, I think when I graduated, I went to Tulane University. When I graduated college and told my parents I was moving to LA to do stand-up comedy, they thought I was out of my mind. That was not oh, good luck, or, they thought it was insane and didn't know where it was coming from. I was not a theater kid. I was not, and I went to Tulane, which was an amazing place, but there was no film school there at all. So I had no experience, whatever. I'd never been on a set of a film until I made my first short film when I was in LA.
Freak. So screenwriting, writing, any of that shit was not even in the books back then. Like that wasn't even a thought.
No, it was a thought, but I didn't do anything about it. I just always wanted to be Woody Allen, not now, but back then, and Albert Brooks and Jerry Seinfeld, but I didn't do anything about it. And when I was graduating college, I was on my way to law school, and I just was like, I can't do this. This is not going to be my life. And I went out here, and it is hard to even look back at it because it's 30 years ago. But I knew nobody out here except I met my soon-to-be wife and then ex-wife on the phone, and that was the only person in Los Angeles I knew. So
wow. Okay. So you go out stand-up comedy to LA.
Yeah.
That was a fucking bust, or that was a huge success?
I mean, it was a huge success because I got a job at the New Line Cinema mailroom, and I raised money by doing stand-up show. I got everyone at New Line to come see me do it, to do this short film I was doing. And the VP of New Line wrote a check for 10 grand out of his own pocket after seeing me do stand-up. So while my stand-up comedy career was over, because I didn't love the lifestyle of it, the stress of it, and the anxiety of it. And but it led to everything that started my career, because this first short film I did ended up getting me an agent and selling to Showtime, and got me into the American Film Institute, and that kind of set me on my path.
Which is amazing. So we'll go into it. So The Waiter was 1993. You wrote that?
Yep. This was the pitch, though. Before that, probably 91, maybe.
Gotcha. And then so the pitch was, you believe the pitch was your in, or was it more of Fat Beach?
Well, I mean, the pitch really changed my life. It got me into the American Film Institute. It sold to Showtime. It introduced me to David Schwimmer and Johnny Silverman and Ernie Hudson and Helen Martin and these other people that I was fortunate enough to get in this little 10-minute short film. That really started everything going. The Waiter actually got me Fat Beach, which, Fat Beach was a little independent movie that I ended up selling to a studio. But yeah, the pitch really started everything in my career. And that came off of, I didn't know what I was doing. I signed up for a UCLA extension class, which is like a night class for a few $100. And they were just talking about screenwriting ideas. And it just made me think of this little short film idea. And that's what I did.
So those independent shorts that you wrote, where did that inspiration come from? When you were writing those, like, did you lean back on a certain time in your life, or was it just
Well, I mean,
fantasy?
the pitch was people pitching really bad movie ideas, and that came right out of that UCLA class. Because when we walked in, and again, I had no idea what the business was, what anybody thinks, but the teacher was like, okay, just pitch me a movie idea. And I just remember how bad the ideas were, and thinking that that would be a good little short film. And weirdly enough, right when I was editing it, the trailer for The Player came out, which I don't know if you know the movie, but classic Robert Altman film that Jeremy Piven actually happens to be in. But great movie. And the trailer legitimately looked like my short because they were showing people pitching bad movies. And when I saw it at 21 years old, as if anyone gave a shit about me, I went into this panic that people were going to sue me and think I stole this idea or whatever it was. But what happened was Showtime saw it and thought it was a perfect short film to play before The Player, which they don't. I don't know if they show short films anymore on HBO or Showtime, but they used to. And the idea of Showtime buying this short film to put it before, I mean, a masterpiece, which is the Player was pretty amazing.
So at 21, you get this stuff. Does it go to your head? Are you the fucking man?
I might be 22 or 23, but
okay. Even at that age, man, having that type of success.
I mean, honestly, I've won an Emmy. I've won a Peabody. Yes. I've had the New York Times said the smartest show on television. None of it has ever gone to my head. I've always been a person that's like, okay, really, who gives a shit what they're talking about yesterday? What am I going to do tomorrow? And that's always been my attitude. And I think, as Entourage reflects, those were, all inspired by my relationships and friendships. My friends are still the same friends since kindergarten. I think to a man and woman, they would all tell you that I've never changed even a little bit,
Which is funny because I follow you on Instagram, and you'll see some days where you're just like, I don't want to fucking write. I'm locking myself in the room, or I'm having a tough time, or it's just, and it's like, it's real, right? It's not this bullshit, life. It's like, yeah, you're struggling through writing, getting creative.
That's most days. And, I think for because I do have some friends who are writers that really are they're writers. I've always been kind of a, I don't know, pseudo performer, and
writing. Credit yourself a writer. You say that a lot. I'm not a writer. I'm not really a true hard writer.
I'm not, and I never was, and I never really liked it. And it's something that, has brought me a lot of good fortune. And, as I was saying, you need a lot of luck. And, I think that, when doing Entourage, you can see how much I can write because I have a deadline and I have a timeline. But for so many writers out here, when frustration sets in and nobody is paying you and nobody is going, oh, you're good, or we want this, it's very hard to motivate. And even for me after Entourage, it was just back to the same. And, you can find yourself in this business town, really procrastinating a lot of your life away. And I think, what's so interesting about the time right now, like, look at you doing this podcast from wherever you are. I don't know if this is your house. I'm doing the same thing. And, and 30 years ago, when I made that short film, I was going, okay, just do it yourself, because the business and the town is such a demoralizing place and such a difficult place to get through, that the more that you can create on your own, to hone your craft and to, then show people what you're capable of, it's a much better scenario. So I think young people now are especially fortunate that things are so inexpensive and there's so many abilities to spread the word about your stuff, that I do believe that talent will rise a lot easier than it would have 20 years ago,
Which is amazing. Exactly. Like I said, I'm here talking to you. Like, it's like, holy shit, man, see you on the screen and on Instagram and stuff like that. But, so there were so especially being in LA, there were some like pretty down times, I'm assuming. Like, what did you do to get yourself back up? Or what was that motive? What was that little voice in your head saying, like, stop being a fucking suck, get up? Or was it motivation
I use a lot of fear and anger as motivation. And, when I was 28, I had made 2 films that sold to studios, which honestly, it doesn't happen like very often. I did it twice. And at 28, I still found myself unemployable. After this movie Kissing a Fool came out, which cost $1 million and was released around the world, it didn't make the kind of money some asshole expected it to make. And all of a sudden I literally could not get a job. And I was thinking about going back to law school. I now had my first child on the way, and a house that I had bought because I thought I was pretty successful. And, Entourage was kind of one of those things that happened out of my usual anger. I got pissed off because I saw some shitty television show that someone made. And I said, you know what, I could do this crap. And I wrote a Curb Your Enthusiasm spec script, which is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That Curb is still like as strong as ever. And it really was the second coming of my career. But I wrote a Curb spec. I gave it to my manager, who was my friend from college and manager for years, who hadn't been doing shit for me. And all of a sudden he read it and was like, Mark and I were talking about this idea. I don't know why I didn't think about you. I'm like, I don't either. But anyway, that's that, and that happened. And then I wrote that pilot, which took 2 years to get HBO from buying it to actually going, okay, let's make it. In between, even though like I said, I'd made 2 movies that were released by studios, they made me hire my boss who would oversee me. And, it was a grind. Again, not to complain about it. Everybody's got to go through this on some level, but that's what it was.
But even through the success of Entourage, I'm sure when you're in it, it didn't seem it, but you struggled from episode to episode, season to season, writing shit. Like people don't understand that Entourage was not created like 6 seasons ahead of time. You wrote these fucking stressing out week after week, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't even think it was written 6 minutes ahead of time, and the production process, directing, producing, that is all the easy. The writing, again, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of Entourage. You can think it's the greatest written show in the world or the worst written show in the world. It's always difficult to come up with storylines in a half hour, wrap them up, get people, especially we had 5 leads, get them all involved was always a challenge, And again, it was a great one, but there were plenty of times I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, So it is what it is.
And an anomaly, I'm sure it's not the norm, but usually the writer doesn't have such great relationships. And those who don't know Victory the podcast, you're on that with Kevin Dillon and Kevin Connolly. Like, is that norm in the industry where the writer becomes really good friends with the cast members and
No, I don't think so. And there's upsides and downsides to that. Obviously, it's been great because we have a podcast, but I used to tell them all the time, because we were all tight, and they'd tell me, I don't like this, I don't like that. And I used to always tell them, like, David Chase would whack you if you were on The Sopranos and you started complaining about the scripts. And that was true. Like, you were not going to go to someone like David Chase and tell him what you didn't like. But I had a very open door policy like that, and it worked. And, I was lucky enough that the guys that I had, were creative. They had ideas that were worth listening to. And it turned out to be, behind the scenes, helped make a lot of the stuff in front of the camera as well.
And you see it. I still think it's probably the best show. I actually subscribe to a TV station just to watch Entourage over and over and over fucking again, over and over. That's all I watch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So it is awesome. But so do you feel through this? And I know maybe you don't see yourselves. I think you're quite successful in what you've gone through. What would you attribute to it? Was it being at the right place at the right time? Was it working hard and just shutting the fuck up and doing the work? What was, what do you think?
I think those combinations, you need a lot of luck and a lot of breaks. I've written scripts that, may be better than Entourage that don't get made. Entourage was the right moment, the right time, the right president of HBO. I think that Chris Albrecht was probably the only one at that network that wanted to make the show. I don't think any of the people under him really were that interested in it. So you always need a lot of breaks. That being said, I was a grinder. I came up with a lot of friends who were out at clubs every single night, and that wasn't my life. I was here trying to figure out what I wanted to do and doing it to the best of my ability,
And it's synonymous of Entourage because, as much as you wrote some stuff, like the pitch, Entourage was written, I think, in more or less of your Entourage that you brought back from Long Island and all those buddies. And that's kind of what it really is about, even though people stated, it was Wahlberg and stuff like that. I think it's more about what you went through.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, for
your buddy's
sure.
back.
You know, obviously Mark was the jumping off point, and the inspiration, and I took a lot of things from a movie star, but there's so much of my life in the show. And, you know, Ari's wife is, you know, based on my ex-wife. Her name's Melissa. My son plays Ari's son. And I used lots of stories in my life. Mark was amazing in that, you know, it was going to be, people were going to watch it and go, this is about Mark. And he was great in letting me change it to New York from Boston and make it my own thing while still dealing with the life of a movie star, which obviously, you know, he knows a lot more about than I do, you know?
Yeah, which is awesome. So now you have the Victory Podcast. You just started up Hollywood Ways. Hollywood Ways is, tell us what Hollywood Ways is
So
about.
Hollywood Ways I'm doing with Breezy, who's on All American, was on Empire before. She's a rapper. And Victory, you know, I don't even like to say that it's, you know, an Entourage recap show, because it's not, although we talk about episodes. But Victory is a hang with your friends. You know, we'll talk about anything. Hollywood Ways, we're going to get, you know, a little more interactive, have call-ins and help people avoid some of the mistakes that we've made. Hear very different perspectives from Breezy, who's a young African-American woman. And me. So it's going to just be a much different vibe, but still hopefully fun and informative on some level.
So yeah, make sure you follow that. What advice would you give, either, you know, touch on the base of writers or producers or actors coming up now and different from before? Because obviously, like you said, I'm able to touch people that I couldn't 20 years ago. Right? You'd have to wait outside their hotel rooms and stuff like that. Now it's literally a fucking Zoom and hey, you're there. So what advice do you give for newcomers?
I mean, the advice to, you know, grind every day and make your own things happen. A lot of people think you got to go get an agent. You got to go get this. You got to go that. I think, you know, this is a time now to go make who you are and show people what you can do it inexpensively, but it's completely doable. And I think even for writers that are just writers, because a lot of people don't think they're directors, they just think they're writers. But I think it's just go get that stuff made, because it's so much easier to have people look at something you've made than a script on the page. But it all kind of, you know, goes back to the same thing. Treat it as a job. And you can come to LA and you can be like, oh, look at this life and have a good time all the time. Or you can go, I'm working Monday through Friday. I'm going to figure out where I want to be 5 years from now. And I'm going to spend every moment I can thinking about how to get there, as opposed to let's go have a good time today. Let's hit the beach tomorrow, because it really is an easy hole to fall into, where you just start wasting time. And the next thing you know, 20 years has passed. So.
And that's why I think, you know, for whatever reason, attracted me to you, in the sense that, yeah, you're still fucking hustling away, you know, didn't go to your head. You're still working hard. You're still trying to. And I mean, I look back on it and say, you made it. You're successful. You got this, you know, in my opinion, Entourage, which is an amazing HBO series that was on for whatever, like 7 years. Like, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. But yet you still feel that you still need to push forward and keep on moving forward, as opposed to laying back.
Well, you know what? It's all what you want to be in life. And, you know, I'm working harder now than I have in years, but I'm enjoying it. Because, I mean, these podcasts, which, you know, can you go make the type of money as when you have a hit show on HBO? No, but the enjoyment that I have and the ability to talk to people, which is what I've always liked. I like talking to young people. I like seeing if I can guide them in any way, help them in any way. But I also like conversations about things. And, you know, like I said before, this is the time where I don't need some executive to tell me what I can talk about or what I can't talk about. And it's not that I'm overly controversial. I like to think of myself as a very reasonable person, but I like to give my opinions on what they are. And I don't like to hear any shit from anybody. And, you know, that's unfortunately the grind of a writer. You know, you're not a painter who gets to do it by yourself. You need a lot of people to not only give you money, but to also agree that they like what you're doing. So I like this new world. And for me, this has just been, you know, the last year and a half has been kind of a revelation, something that I wish I was doing. And I feel like you feel the same way, but I wish I was doing a talk show 30 years ago. I mean, that's kind of when I started as stand-up, I now realize that's not really what I wanted to do, because I'm not into telling jokes. I've never liked that. And I don't write like that. I don't like writing jokes, and I don't like, even though I grew up loving stand-up, it's not really what I like. But what I do like is, talk radio and Howard Stern and things like that. So it's nice that now you can do it and do it so inexpensively that, if you can make money, that's great. But you can also just do it and have a chance to voice things and see what sticks,
It's funny because when you guys first started, there were some fucking heated moments when you kind of went off the handle a bit, and it didn't seem like you truly fucking enjoyed it. It seemed like there was more of a pain in the ass. You were annoyed by it. People are talking over you. You're like, I thought you were just, they're going to throw and say, fuck it, I'm gone. But now it's your,
you know what? It's like when you're working with your brothers, there's fights, and I'm a perfectionist. I take everything I do very seriously. And if I'm going to do it, I want to do it the best. And again, that's not to say that they don't, but, it is a skill to learn when three people are there, how to not interrupt each other all the time. And we're getting better. But, I think that's the funny thing about it. When I said to them to start with, I said, all I care about is us being good. So let's not worry about whether we make money or how we sell it. Let's focus on how we can get better at this. So I think we have, and but there's fights all the time,
Not as much as the beginning. I mean, that was a little touch and go there at the start. Now you guys have found your groove. You're like grooving along.
I think so. We just did a live show. Now we're doing it's so surreal because we're doing a live tour, and
which is awesome.
And the show, again, why I say it's not an Entourage recap show. The show's been off the air for 10 years, but we just did a show at the Improv in Brea, which was sold out. And that was a really cool thing. But what was really great about it is people really knew the podcast. They weren't just there because they loved Entourage. They really took to the stories that we talk about on the podcast. And that was cool. And there is nothing more, like I said, stand-up comedy, which is the most naked, brutal, standing by yourself and actually reciting jokes, is really a difficult thing. And anyone who does it well, God bless them. What I love about this is we're just having conversations, and hopefully they're funny, but we're more interactive with the audience than just standing up there and doing jokes. So I do feel like this is something that I wish I was doing 20 years ago, and I'm going to try to do it as long as people will let us,
Well, I mean, I know you say you're not a writer. I think you're a storyteller. And I think doing a podcast is to a certain degree telling a story. And that's kind of, I think, what you found. So first off, are you bringing it to Toronto?
I hope so. I mean, I love Toronto, by the way, even though I quit a movie that I was supposed to direct there a few years ago, but I love Toronto. And Emmanuel from my show was from Vancouver, Toronto. Yeah. And aside from your hockey team and our
we took Tavares. We took Tavares,
captain and who was I think it was the first athlete my son met, and I have his jersey hanging in my garage, and I still love the guy, but I can't believe he left us, on the island. And
that was a tough
unfortunately
one
for him and you guys, it hasn't really done much, but
no, it's done nothing. Actually, all the articles of hockey are coming out now about the team and what's happening. And it's funny because I think Connolly has the Tavares jersey in the Entourage in his office, and his new office as well, sitting in the podcast. So it's funny to see that.
And I still love the guy, but that was, I'm such a diehard New York Islanders fan, to see our star, who I really thought was staying. That was tough, but we've been playing well. But so that's kind of the story.
What's on the horizon for Doug Ellin? What's the next 5-10 years look for you?
I'm hoping to make this really like a career. I have a show that I wrote with Thierry Henry. It's loosely based on his life and career. If that goes, we'll see, but I'm not as enthused to go run a television show as I am to do these podcasts. So, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do, is make a career out of it. I'm really excited about this new one with Breezy. I think I got I don't like to call it a sidekick. She really is a partner, but she's a superstar with a great voice and a great POV on life. So I don't know. I'd like to do these every day. That was one of our problems with Victory. Like, I'm like, guys, we could do this every day. And they don't want to do that,
It cuts into Dylan's golf time, right?
Exactly.
So, there you go.
And his driving time from Malibu, which is very difficult for him.
Which is awesome. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I thoroughly appreciate it. This is like surreal for me. I remember I texted my wife saying, "Oh my God, I'm fucking Doug Ellin just texted me. Holy shit!" So it is.
Hopefully, I lived up to it. But I appreciate it, and keep doing what you're doing, man. And I think it's great. I love seeing when people are going out and just making it happen on their own and not waiting for anybody else. And it's good stuff. So.
I appreciate it, and I definitely will keep up with the Hollywood ways, and hopefully you guys get the Victory out to Toronto. If you need help with that, I'd be happy to facilitate any of that. So
awesome, thank you, I appreciate it.
Awesome, right, have a good one. Thanks, Doug. Take care.
Deep inside, deep down inside, deep inside, it's killing me. Close your eyes and hope.